Hey, what's up, guys? Note investor here. Real quick, I don't want to scare it away, but if you look really close, there's a green candle sitting there right at the bottom of the chart. Ladies and gentlemen, there's a green candle. There is finally a bounce. Is it the low? Is it the bottom? I want to go over that today, but no doubt we have reached a bounce point in the charts. We have reached the point where the price decided to not go any lower. Buyers really started to step in, and I want to cover some of my thoughts around that. Certainly has made for a nice tradable rally today, and just got to take it one day at a time is the bottom line. Don't start FOMOing, don't start chasing the top here on this daily candle, but certainly the momentum has shifted for the near term, and we'll kind of explore some different scenarios, some different thoughts that I want to share with you guys. So let's get to it. First and foremost, looking at Bitcoin, we were in a relentless selling yesterday. I believe we hit peak FUD. We were scared the bottom was going to fall out. So there was, people I was talking to were going down to 5K, we're going to 4K. Some prominent YouTubers here at the lows were calling for 1K. And so I'm not saying we don't hit 1K ultimately, but I was not expecting to see a huge just sell-off that'll take us straight there in one bar. That's just not the way things work, ladies and gentlemen. Nothing ever goes straight up or straight down. We had hit a period of accelerated decline. You can see here, once we broke that 17K mark, it was just a grind down. We attempted a little bit of a rally pause here, but then really started to accelerate. But then the acceleration just really picked up, and it was going straight down, right? Almost the inverse of what you would see in a parabolic move. And what tends to happen is you tend to get a reversion back to the mean at minimum, meaning if you look at a straight line, right, just take a whatever angle that is, a generally straight line. Once you get too far below that, there tends to be a little bit of a snapback. Even if all it is a bounce, you will have a reversion to the mean ultimately. And when I started to see so many of these charts just hitting this extreme bearishness, the volume was really starting to pick up. And no doubt it was a scary time. It was very concerning for anybody that had been hodling this entire way down, and it just seemed like there was no end in sight to the selling. And so we started to get some pretty extreme lows yesterday. The RSI was dipping below 30, and I was looking at how far down we were from just the shorter term moving average, and just from the very short term 10 EMA on the daily, we were already down 29%, and at the lows we were down 35%. Or 30% or so, and some of the other names were down even more than that. So that's significant. That is a very stretched to the downside scenario. And so my belief was, even if it continued lower, we were going to see a pretty big snapback. So I was getting ready. I was watching this overnight, just kind of taking a look at the charts. And yes, it turned out to be a late night. And even though after the last couple of days, it was one of those moments where I was thinking the last thing I want to do is watch these charts tonight, and I want to take a break in here. But it just felt like we were getting close. So I was keeping an eye on it. I was watching this, and sure enough, we started to trickle down. We started to hit the low 6K numbers, and this is on GDAX. And we very briefly went below 6K, and I thought, here we go. We see a 5 in front of the number. And look at this volume that just came in here right after that. And in a matter of minutes, this is the 5-minute chart, keep in mind, we went up several $100s in just a matter of minutes. Huge volume, the biggest volume we had seen all day, and really the biggest volume we've seen going back for quite some time. And so that was my signal. Started thinking, okay, there's some big buyers stepping in here. And so started to gear up, started to take a little bit of positions on these low points here, and sure enough, we saw it just grinding down. And at this point, this was really my 1, 2 a.m. But then we saw a lot of buying coming in. Every time it was just selling off here, you can see the trajectory of this move really started to shift, right? We had been in this very long down. The rallies would brief, but they were continuing. Then I noticed for a few hours it was starting to kind of round out a base, and sure enough, we saw some big volume coming in, some good selling. We back tested this, and all day we've been just kind of steadily marching up. And the momentum, the sentiment has certainly shifted now where there's more buying pressure coming in. So here's the 1 hour chart on GDAX. So you can see just the dips now are continuing to be bought up versus the other way around the last couple of days. Any little rallies were just quickly sold into. We could just not get any momentum to the upside. We finally broke above that 10 EMA and we are now closing above it. And so we're making this nice little steady trend. I certainly expect to see some back testing, some pulling in. I don't think we're just going to go straight up from here and just continue higher, but we could certainly continue higher for some time before we get a significant pullback. It's just a matter of when. But consider we've already come off the lows a pretty decent amount, right? We've bounced 31% just on Bitcoin, and many other names have seen a much larger percentage move off the lows. The other thing too is the volume here at these lows is looking a lot better than it was over the last couple of days. And if we go to the daily chart again, there's just that big green candle reversal. We started this candle, undercut the prior day, and we didn't finish higher, but nonetheless, that's a pretty significant reversal to the upside. But just the fact that we were just so oversold, RSI was at the lows. The MACD, if you look at the MACD setting, was just going straight down on this daily, and we had pretty much gone from one extreme to the other here in the last several weeks, month and a half. And so it was due for a bounce. Now, is this the low? Is it done? Are we done correcting? We certainly have more time before we can get anywhere near saying that. So I'm not going to say that that was the low. That is certainly a low for now, and it had certainly made for a nice tradable rally here. It was what I was looking for the last couple of days, and now we just got to take it one day at a time and see if we can start backtesting. But I fully expect that the upside momentum will last for a little bit at least, right? So we got this 4 hour bars certainly moving up now. We've had 4 in a row, so I expect to see some red in there now, but the back testing is going to be interesting to watch to see if the selling pressure really starts to pick up as we pull in, or if it's a lot of buyers stepping in on the dip. And I'm thinking it's going to be buyers just because we had this extreme low, and people are watching this rally up now, and they're thinking, was that it? And maybe they want to start picking up at these lower prices. You also have to consider, though, that there's going to be those holders that were just wishing and hoping the selling would stop so they could get out on a bounce. And you can see we pretty much bounced right into a key resistance point here. This also happened to be a key ratio on the fib retracement to the downside. And so that's how I was setting my targets on some of this trading that I was doing here earlier today. So let me pull that up here. So you can see if you just do a quick bounce retracement on this move here over the last couple of days, just a bounce off of the low here. The first level, the 382, was right at just above 7K, and the next level was just shy of 8K, which also happened to correspond with this little bit of a resistance zone here. So that's what I was looking for, somewhere in between here for a bounce, and started to scale out of that position here going into this. Now, this is just strictly trading at this point. If you're looking for a longer term hold or longer term hodl, that was certainly a good low, and I don't expect that low to be taken out just right away. That would be really weak if this just undercut it. But the buying volume, the pressure that we're seeing here to the upside today leads me to believe there's a lot more strength in this low than there was in some of these prior attempts here that we've seen over the last week or so. The daily candle just looks so much stronger here today, and so I'm liking what I'm seeing. Some of the other alts are confirming too. Litecoin has been another one that I was holding here today, picking it up. Just the daily chart versus BTC has been very strong. If you look at Litecoin USD, that one also had a nice low and didn't even undercut the second low. So was one of those names I was mentioning that was holding up better, relative strength. I talked about that in the live stream yesterday. And this one too had a pretty decent rally off the lows. That's already up 36%. Another one I was looking at here was Neo. And I was watching this, and I probably picked it up a little too early, but I think I did okay on this one. I was looking at Neo right around $70, and I was just thinking, it's just so attractive at $70. I mean, how much lower can this thing get? It was so stretched to the downside. If you look at the daily chart of Neo, just from the 10 EMA, at that point where it was $70, we were down almost 41% from the 10 EMA. And so my rationale was, okay, it could dip a little bit lower, but we're going to see some sort of a bounce, even if it only bounced halfway up. that's a 35% to move to the upside. And if we bounce more, I mean, that's a significant percentage gain. So the risk reward was certainly there. It was definitely a little not easy, a little scary, not easy to buy in the face of some of these dips. But once I started to see the little bit of a rally, the bounce attempt we had, I felt a little bit more confident going into this one. And this one too, on the very short time frames, what I was watching here was at the lows, we were forming a falling wedge pattern. If you're familiar with that, that tends to break to the upside when we do that. And so I was watching this pattern starting to play out. The downside was falling at a lower pace than the sellers were coming in at the tops. And so we were starting to form a little bit of a support there. There was also some bullish divergence on the RSI. Let me show that. So we were starting to see some upside on the RSI. So these signals is what I was looking for. The volume was starting to show up with the support. And once we started to break that above that, that was a pretty good rally from that point up. You can see here in the 4-hour chart has had a very strong move off of the low. And I think we're due for a pause now. I mean, at the peak here, we were already up 73% off the lows. That's a significant move. It's certainly going to need some pausing, some pulling back. We're starting to see that now. So that's going to be the test. How far down do we go? And, is this just a tradable rally, or are we going to see some more sustained move to the upside? That's yet to be seen, ladies and gentlemen. I think we're a little bit of ways from showing that, but I'm feeling a lot better about this low. It's feeling certainly much stronger than the prior attempts we've had in the last couple of days. And again, the sentiment readings, some of the very extreme bearishness, the indicators were just so overbought. We were certainly due. Now, near term, we need to start closing above this daily 10 EMA. Living below it, it's just still a very bearish sign. It just shows that in the near term, the trend is still down. So we got to reverse that. I'm thinking we will, but between now and then, do we see a little bit of a back test first? That's what we're going to be looking out for in the next couple of hours to the next day or so. A couple of other names that have been looking pretty strong here off the lows. Icon was one that had a pretty significant move. You can see here on the daily candle just from the bottom wick, right? That was up 50-60% today. And several other names are doing that. So what do you do in these times, right? One thing to consider is, I was mentioning this yesterday, is what are those projects that you believe in? What are those names that you think, okay, if crypto really takes a hit for the next year or so, what's going to come out on top on the other side? What's going to be around the longest? And those are the projects that you got to start looking at and repositioning the portfolio. And if you're not in, looking to take positions at some of these lows. And it's really hard to do, and it goes against normal psychology when you think about it. Everybody wants to buy when we're doing this, and rightly so. But for those of you that were looking to buy Bitcoin at 10K and at 15K and at 20K because you were just seeing the prices go up every day, suddenly it's really hard to buy when the prices have been coming down. Yet rationally speaking, you're going, okay, if I was willing to pay 10 or 15 or 20, 7 sounds pretty good. But the challenge is now you're fighting the trend. The trend is certainly down. We have not reversed that yet. And so that's what we're looking out for. We got to see if we test the lows. Do we start to change the trend, and at least intermediately or in the intermediate term, start to move up higher? So that's what I'm going to be looking for. I'm continuing to watch some of the stronger names. For now, I'm sticking with the more liquid names, something that's a little bit stronger, like Neo and Ethereum and Litecoin. Those are the better names as far as the trading side goes for now. The longer term HODL, looking at some of those stronger projects that I believe will stand the test of time and will be around and be the backbone of crypto and blockchain. And so that's it for today, guys. I'll keep you guys posted as this market develops, and look out for another live stream in the next day or so. Until next time, take care, everyone.